know if y'all know this, but I love horror movies, like a lot. Like a lot. Like to the point where I've covered my entire leg with horror tattoos and I collect a bunch of horror movies. The point is I like scary movies a lot, all right? I also like magic cards too. I don't know if you could tell. You know, it's a little known fact about me. But I thought it would be interesting to combine two of my passions together and kind of talk to you guys about horror movies through the lens of magic. The first movie we're going to be covering is Evil Dead, the original 1981 one. All right, this movie has been done a million times. All right, it's a franchise and a half. It's had TV shows, video games. It even had its own secret lair, which, by the way, super sick. I kind of regret not buying that, but that's besides the point. Evil Dead was directed by Sam Raimi, and if you're going, Chase, that sounds familiar. That's like a familiar name. You would be correct, dear viewer, listener, reader, what have you. Sam Raimi directed the original Evil Dead, but did you also know that Sam Raimi went on to direct the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire? That's how you know that this is going to be a truly terrifying movie. The man who made the monstrosity known as Spider-Man 3 made the original Evil Dead. So to give you a basic bare bones rundown of what Evil Dead is about, you have 5 friends who travel to take a little like vacation, I guess, alone in a cabin in the woods. They find a cellar, and in that cellar is a book with a face on it, bound in human flesh, and they listen to this audio tape that has an incantation that summons demons that possess the main character's friends. Pretty standard horror movie, I would say, but you have to understand, this was pretty cutting edge back then. It was the standard for horror. A lot of the tropes we see nowadays come from Evil Dead. And I think that's really cool and awesome. So I thought that was kind of the perfect movie for us to start with on Dead on Board, because Evil Dead is so iconic. And if you do decide to watch the movie after watching this, love that. Phenomenal. I hope you do. But it might seem schlocky to you. You know, it was made in 1981. It looks like it was filmed on like a potato. And the special effects are, while in my opinion, amazing, they're a little, interesting, to say the least. However, Evil Dead is iconic, so let's get into it. So the movie starts out with our 5 friends drying in a vomit-colored car across a broken bridge to reach this cabin in the woods that they are renting for cheap on the weekend. You have Ash, he's the one with the unibrow. He's going to be very hard to miss. Then you have his girlfriend Linda, his sister Cheryl, his friend Scotty, and Scotty's girlfriend Shelly. Ash is the main character, and everybody else is pretty much there to be meatbags and die and raise the body count. They all pull up to this cabin that they're vacationing in, and the thing's a little decrepit, I'm not gonna lie. It's a little rough looking, okay? It's supposed to be spooky. There's like a deer head. There's like a weird murder shack next to the cabin. The point is, it's like your perfect horror movie scene. And for some reason, they're vacationing there. I don't even know why they're there, but they're like, oh, I got it on the cheap. So they're in a cabin in the woods. Right out of the gate, things are a little bit weird in the cabin. You have Ash's sister who's just sketching around, doing some really cool drawings. And then all of a sudden she hears this demonic voice going, "Join us." That might seem cheesy to you, but again, cutting edge in 1981. She hears "join us," and all of a sudden she doesn't have control of her hand, and her hands just starts sketching all over the paper and draws what looks like SpongeBob, but it's actually the Necronomicon. Wink, wink. We're gonna talk about that later. And it's just kind of creepy. It's creepy. The vibe, the energy, creepy. We suddenly find our gang sitting down, chilling out, eating a wonderful meal that they cooked. Doesn't look that wonderful to me, but that's besides the point. And while they're eating, talking, and yapping, the cellar door just randomly pops open. Not creepy at all. Personally, I would have run away at that, but they decide to check it out for some ungodly reason. I don't know why. Once down in the cellar, we have our lovely main hero discover the Necronomicon, which is basically a book bound in human flesh. He's grimacing. He doesn't look too happy to be found, if I'm being honest, or he doesn't really look too happy to be the cover of a book. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. They also find this dagger in the cellar that looks like one of those spirit Halloween Grim Reaper staff things, but I kind of live for it if I'm being honest. They go upstairs and they also find this tape, like this old school, like film through the whatever tape. And while they're flipping through the Book of the Dead, they click the tape and they start listening to it. On the tape, the archaeologist talks about how he found this Book of the Dead, which is the Necronomicon, and how he took it home with him to the cabin to research. He talks about how his wife was possessed by these evil demons, and the only way to kill these demons is by dismemberment. He also then decides to speak out the incantation on the tape, which then starts the entire events of the movie. I don't know what this man was thinking. He knew this was real. His wife got possessed by these demons, and he knew it was real, and he still went, I should keep this on the tape. I should keep this information out there to be found. It may have been 1981. There might not have been the internet, all right? But this man still was like, I need a hard copy just in case, you know? Regardless, the entire movie's events happen just because this one man decided that he wanted a physical copy of this incantation. As the incantation plays, Ash's sister, Cheryl, starts freaking out. She's screaming, crying, gagging, throwing up, like head in hands, screaming to stop. She is not liking this incantation. And for some reason, no one stops. They just keep the tape playing. It's not like it's hard to stop it. They could have just pressed a button, but nah, they just wanted to see this poor girl suffer. So Cheryl is screaming, and the entire time that she's screaming, the outside woods is basically coming to life, but in 80s fashion. All right, you got smoke coming out, leaves moving, red lights glowing. The woods are coming alive, Cheryl's screaming, and the only thing that stops this entire ordeal is a tree falling through the window and breaking it. And for some reason, the tree shattering the window and Cheryl screaming to stop just didn't ruin the mood for Ash, because Ash goes into a side room with his girlfriend Linda and presents her with a present. He gives her a gift, all right? I have watched this movie a lot. I love this movie. Maybe I'm just a bad horror movie fan, but I've never understood the significance of this gift. I don't know if it's some symbolism, a metaphor, but basically Ash gives her a necklace that is also a magnifying glass. I don't know why it's a magnifying glass. I don't know if she's an archaeology major or whatever. He just gives her this magnifying glass necklace and she loves it. She puts it on, she wears it, she's super happy with the gift, and the two are in love. Certainly nothing bad will happen to them. We then check in on Cheryl, who is back in her room, chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, but she's not shooting b-ball outside of the school. But she's a little shaken up. She was just screaming about an incantation. And as she's sitting down in her room, very nervously, we hear that deep, "Join us," again, calling her. And for some reason, Cheryl, who's just emotionally gone through it, all right, this girl is not okay. She goes, "You know what? I think I will. Cheryl, sweetie, honey, I don't understand why you did that." But apparently the demonic voices were just too much for Cheryl, and so she wanders in the woods on her own. While I love Evil Dead a lot, I love this movie, this one particular scene that I'm about to talk about, I absolutely hate. I hate the scene. I don't think it was necessary for the film, but it's in the movie, so I have to talk about it. While Cheryl is wandering in the woods alone, she is suddenly attacked by a tree, by nature, by vines, what have you. And it's rough. That's what I'm gonna say. It's rough. Bad things happen to Cheryl in the woods, and it's horrible, and I hate it, and I don't understand why it's in this movie. You could take this scene out of the movie and everything would still stand. Everything would still stand without this scene. But nonetheless, Cheryl's in the woods, and I don't want to say it, but bad things happen to Cheryl in the woods. I will say that Sam Raimi, the director, has gone on public record stating that he regrets the scene and regrets putting it in the movie. And that makes me very happy to hear, because it's just so vile and unnecessary and just not good. I love horror to death, but that scene I just can't vibe with. Anyways, afterwards, Cheryl decides to sprint back to the cabin in fright. She is battered, she is bruised, she has cuts all over her arms because she's running through the woods terrified. And this girl eventually makes her way back to the cabin, but the door is locked and she's screaming, freaking out, banging on the door, saying, "Let me in, let me in, let me in." Girl is not okay. I mean, rightfully so. She is terrified because something is chasing her, but we can't see it. It's like this invisible POV force that's just coming at her. And right as that POV force is about to just get Cheryl, Ash opens the door and pulls her in. Once inside, Cheryl starts freaking out, talking about how the woods attacked her. Everybody else in the cabin thinks she's gone crazy, she's hysterical. I mean, to be fair, girl was screaming on the top of her lungs to stop because a tape was playing, but they ignore what she's saying despite the fact that she just is looking a little rough. So she's freaking out. She's saying that the woods attacked her and that she wants to leave. She wants to leave the cabin. She wants to go back home. She just wants to be anywhere but where she is right now. Ash, being the good big brother that he is, decides to relent and take Cheryl back into town, even though he thinks she's being cuckoo Cocoa Puff. So he relents, they get in the car together, and they go to drive back to town. And they reach the bridge, and lo and behold, the bridge is completely destroyed. And like earlier in the beginning of the movie, when they're crossing the bridge, a tire goes through the bridge, and it's not sturdy, but the rest of the bridge is fine. It's just old. Even though they drove across it, only one tire went through, so it's not like that bad. But when they get to the bridge at night, the bridge looks like it lost a fight with a crane. Like it looks like Godzilla went down, went grabby hands on it, and just destroyed the bridge. Cheryl's freaking out, rightfully so, because the bridge has just lost a fight with an evil demon force. It just looks rough as all get outs. And she's saying, "See, I knew it. They're not gonna let us leave. They weren't ever gonna let us leave." And Ash is like, "You're crazy, Cheryl. Even though you freaked out about a weird tape and we found a book covered in human flesh." She's like, "You're crazy." They end up going back to the cabin, and while in the cabin, Ash decides to listen to more of the tape on his own. Good on you, because Cheryl probably would hate that. And as he listens to the tape, he finds that the archaeologist continues to talk more about his experiences with the Necronomicon, saying that his wife was possessed by those demons, and that the only way to kill those demons is by dismemberment. And while Ash is listening to that videotape, gathering that very critical piece of information that will definitely be useful later, we have Linda and Shelley playing a card guessing game. It's not Magic the Gathering. I know, shocker, right? But they're playing a card guessing game, kind of holding up a card, being like, "Guess which card I'm holding up." And while they're playing this game, suddenly we have Miss Cheryl chiming in, guessing each and every card correctly while she's staring out the window, no less. That takes some skill, all right? But Cheryl is guessing each and every card correctly, but her voice ain't sounding too hot, all right? She ain't sounding like Cheryl. It's like a demon voice. It's a demon voice. Cheryl is gone, and she is now possessed by a deadite. Things aren't looking too good for the rest of our crew here, because Cheryl starts telling everybody that they're all going to die just like everybody before them, and Girly Pop just starts levitating. I mean, 1981 levitating, but she's still levitating, saying that everybody's gonna die. Then she suddenly collapses and is on the floor looking quite demure with her still really weird, messed up looking demon face. And right as people go to check on her, her eyes pop open, she grabs a pencil and she stabs poor Linda in the ankle with this pencil. Then Cheryl gets up and tries to go and stab Ash with this pencil. I think she probably watched The Dark Knight before she went on this trip. She wanted to pull kind of a Joker situation. But before she can stab Ash with the pencil, we have our lovely lad Scotty coming out here. He basically bops Cheryl on the head with an axe. Doesn't hit her with the axe, just goes bops her on the head with the end of an axe, and then does a really interesting drop kick and knocks her into the cellar. We then cut to Ash, who's tucking his girlfriend Linda in bed because apparently she needs a nap after getting stabbed in the ankle with a pencil. Personally, that wouldn't be me. That's not what I would be doing, but apparently the girl needs a nap after getting stabbed. So good on her for knowing self-care. We then move back into the main room where all of the shenanigans happened, and Shelley is freaking out. Rightfully so, because apparently her friends are possessed by demons, all right? And people are getting stabbed. Not exactly a very stress-free vacation. But anyways, Shelley's freaking out that things are just not going to be okay. And for some reason, Scotty is like, "Don't worry, babe, it'll be fine in the morning." How? Did you not see Cheryl's face? Girl looked like she rubbed her face on like ammonia or something. Like her face is not okay. Like a cheese grater face. Girl is not okay. Shelly is also kind of agreeing with the fact that she's not okay. Shelly's freaking out over how Cheryl looks. And okay, I get it. Cheryl doesn't look too good. But her asking what happened to her eyes and freaking out about how rough Cheryl is looking isn't exactly helping the situation. And to be honest, Cheryl has gone from screaming in the beginning of the movie to now laughing maniacally, basically mocking everybody. Apparently naps and relaxation are just supposed to magically fix this because Scotty's like, hey, Shelly, go in your room, take a nap or whatever. And Shelly's like, okay. I don't know why that would help, but apparently she has all her faith in Scotty. And as she enters her room, the window bursts open because we have another POV invisible spirit shot, which means it's time for another demon possession. Scotty hears this commotion and is rightfully going, that doesn't sound like napping. So he rushes into Shelly's room to find that she's missing, except there's glass all over the floor. And he's like, Shelly, that's not taking a nap like I told you. And right as he turns to leave the room, Shelly appears out of nowhere. Spider-Man jumps on him. What? I think we found the inspiration for Spider-Man. But anyway, Shelly jumps on him and just starts attacking Scotty. Like, just clawing his face, beating that poor guy up. And he's just having a rough go of it. I mean, he's not looking too hot now either. And in the midst of this fight, Shelly finds that weird spirit Halloween looking dagger I mentioned earlier and takes it and tries to stab Scotty with it, screaming, join us, with the entire time while Cheryl's just cackling and laughing, being like, go off, queen. You know, like Cheryl's kind of being a girl's girl in this situation, and we love that. And right as our lovely girl Shelly is about to stab Scotty with this spirit Halloween looking blade that I mentioned earlier, Scotty just magically has his own knife and then starts to cut off Shelly's hand. What makes this scene so memorable and gross is that he doesn't even finish cutting off her hand, because then Shelly just takes her mouth and just goes and just finishes the job. She just finishes the job for him, and her hand holding the dagger just goes on the floor. Scotty then takes the blade out of that severed hand and then stabs Shelly in the back with it. Shelly, rightfully so, doesn't like being stabbed in the back. I don't think anybody likes being stabbed in the back, you know, literally or metaphorically. But she gets stabbed in the back, she starts convulsing, and we think she's dead. But whoop! She's not dead because she rises back up, and right as she's about to attack Ash and Scotty again, Scotty takes an axe and just wails on Shelly. Just full on dismembering Shelly with an axe. All right, the guy is thorough, but to be fair, in the archaeologist audio tape, he does say you gotta dismember them, and that he does. The boys then gather all of the little Shelly pieces, put it in a bed sheet, and then go outside, dig a grave, and then bury the little Shelly pieces. Once back inside, Scotty's like, dude, I want to leave. Rightfully so, I would say. I think anyone would want to leave in this situation. Dude just murdered and dismembered his girlfriend, so I don't think he's doing too hot and he's ready to go. Meanwhile, Ash is like, no, my girlfriend just got stabbed in the ankle with a pencil. Scotty is a little bit frustrated by this because at least he has a girlfriend still. And he says that, dude, I don't care. I want to get out of here. And so Scotty just abandons Ash and Linda and possessed Cheryl. The dude just abandons them and goes off into the woods. Ash then goes to check on his still alive girlfriend, or still alive, question mark? Because as he goes to check on Linda, suddenly she rises from her bed, a deadite. Linda's possessed. She's gone. And let me tell you, all the deadites look a little bit different in this movie, but Linda just looks freaky. She's just like this high-pitched, giggly, doll-looking deadite that's just sitting crisscross on the floor. Something's messed up about Linda. I mean, like, she's possessed, so is Cheryl, but in my opinion, she's a little bit scarier than Cheryl, all right? Linda's possessed, and it ain't looking too good. While Ash is coming to terms with the fact that his once-alive girlfriend is now a deadite, we have Scotty coming back in, except Scotty's looking a little bit worse for wear. Dude is messed up again. Cheese grater to face looking effect. Scotty just has been through it and he ain't gonna make it. Meanwhile, the entire time that Scotty's on the couch and Ash is talking to him, we have Linda just sitting on the floor, just giggling like a creepy weirdo. Ash is trying to keep him alive the entire time. All the while, Cheryl, still locked in the cellar, is just mocking the poor man. Scotty then tells Ash that he has to kill Linda. And so Ash, without question, just goes, picks up a shotgun, and aims it at Linda. And right as Ash is about to pull the trigger, suddenly, Linda and Cheryl are all better now. They are no longer possessed. They're crying, saying, "Please don't hurt me. What are you doing?" Cheryl, still locked in the cellar, might I add, is asking if she can get some help. She's saying she's all better now and that she wants to come out. And right as Ash is about to fall for it, we have Cheryl's arm popping up through the floorboards and just attacking poor Ash. Linda then also reverts back to a deadite and starts mocking Ash in kind of a sing-song voice. And Ash is just fed up. The dude is done with this, all right? He's like, everyone's dead and or dying. I can't deal with this. And so instead of killing Linda, he just takes her, drags her out, and literally just puts her in the leaves outside of the cabin and then goes back in. In my opinion, Ash should have just shot her then and there, but he's a big old softy, I guess, even though his sister is chained up in the basement, but that's besides the point. He just leaves Linda outside and then goes back in to care for Scotty, who unfortunately has died. Scotty's dead. Ash, distracted by his friend's death, is suddenly ambushed by Linda stabbing him with the Spirit Halloween dagger. Surprise, surprise, putting your demon-possessed girlfriend outside, not even locking the door, is not going to do much to stop a demon. I think no one is surprised by the fact that Linda was just able to walk back inside the cabin and stab Ash. Putting her outside was not a really good solution in my opinion, but go off, King. And in one of the most iconic scenes of the movie, after stabbing Ash, Linda takes the knife and just licks it clean. She just licks the blood clean off the knife. The two engage in this knife fight, and then Ash knocks Linda over and somehow she stabs herself with the blade. Basically, she falls on top of the Spirit Halloween dagger. Linda screams and basically throws up milk. I just can't describe it any better than that. The girl basically throws up milk and is then dead. Ash then drags her body outside and into the weird murder little shanty shed next to the cabin, and then chains her to a table and whips out a chainsaw. Now, if you're familiar with Evil Dead, then you will know that the chainsaw is a really iconic piece with the franchise. Ash then takes the chainsaw, and right as he is about to dismember his girlfriend, which he should, I think she's proven to not be pretty trustworthy in the latter half of this film, he sees her necklace, the little magnifying glass necklace that she has, and he just turns into a big ol' softy and is like, I can't dismember my girlfriend, even though the man on the tape told me to dismember my girlfriend. And so instead, Ash then decides to take Linda outside and bury her in a grave. Ash then reaches down trying to retrieve the magnifying glass necklace that he gave Linda, and right as he's about to grab it, Linda's hand shoots out of the ground and grabs Ash. She rises up from her shallow grave, not too happy that her boyfriend almost dismembered her and then decided to bury her. She decides to then claw Ash's leg, just digging her nails in like she's doing some damage, all right? She's just doing the acrylic damage, and Ash is knocked prone. He, rightfully so, is in pain. While on the ground, Ash finds a wooden beam and just starts going ham on Linda. He is beating her relentlessly with this clearly styrofoam, but not styrofoam, wooden beam. Eventually, Linda knocks Ash onto Shelly's grave, and right as Linda is jumping onto Ash, about to deliver the killing blow, Ash takes the shovel and just decapitates Linda. Ash then limps his way back inside. I mean, the man's leg is just ripped to shreds. And once he gets back in the cabin, he finds that the cellar door is just open and Cheryl's missing. Honestly, I kind of live for this because I think Cheryl is probably the coolest deadite. She's just delivered some of the most iconic lines in the movie. In my opinion, she has the grossest makeup. She's just the freakiest. Cheryl then attacks Ash through the window, but it's okay because Ash shoots her in the face with a shotgun. Somehow, deadite Cheryl is still alive and she still tries to get into the cabin, but Ash bars the door, locking her out. Ash then goes down into the cellar in search of ammo. And while he does find ammo, he finds that there's blood everywhere, literally everywhere. A pipe bursts on his face, filled with blood. Blood is coming out of the wall sockets, filling up the light bulbs. A projector turns on and is then coated in blood. Blood's everywhere. Ash then goes back upstairs with a fully loaded shotgun and is ready to face the rest of this night. He's done playing around. His girlfriend's dead. His friend is dead. The only one left is his sister. But when Ash goes back upstairs, things are a little bit weird. The clock is just continuously spinning, and when Ash goes to a mirror and puts his hand up to the mirror, his hand goes inside the mirror, and rightfully so, Ash freaks out. The dude is losing his mind, but to be fair, I'd kind of be losing my mind too if everybody I knew and loved were possessed by demons and tried to kill me. While Ash is having his freak out moment, he's sitting against a wall, which is never a smart idea when you're in a horror movie, and surprise, surprise, Cheryl's hands come through the wall and try to attack Ash. Ash then spins around and shoots Cheryl with a shotgun. Try saying that fast 5 times. And after he shoots her, he gets up and tries to bar the door. And I know you're probably thinking, well, you know, it's fine. It's only one deadite and Ash has a shotgun. He can handle it. Wrong. Because Scotty is finally possessed by a deadite. Scotty rises up and goes to attack Ash. Ash and Scotty get into a little bit of a tussle, and Ash throws a table at Scotty, and it just so happens that on that table is the Necronomicon, which lands really close to the fireplace. And that's when Ash notices that Scotty starts convulsing a little bit, and he's quite literally smoking, and that's when Ash realizes that the only way to stop this is by burning the Book of the Dead. Cheryl then breaks in and just beats Ash mercilessly with a fire poker. I mean, she's just brutal with that thing. But the entire time, Ash is trying to slowly crawl and get to that Necronomicon. But then he has a brilliant idea. He pulls Linda's necklace out of his pocket and kind of use it as like a grappling hook to pull the Necronomicon towards him. Once he has the book in hand, the dude just casually frisbees it into the fire, and everyone just starts dying around him. Cheryl and Scotty basically just start melting and disintegrating onto the floor. And then all of a sudden, these weird demon hands just burst out of their chest and they explode. They just explode. It's really gross. It's very fascinating to watch. The practical effects are really nice, in my opinion, but it also is pretty disgusting. But essentially, they're dead. Ash then limps out of the cabin, emerging victoriously. It's daylight, the sun's out, and everything is over. Or so we think, because Ash is slowly limping out of the cabin. We get one of those really cool POV deadite shots that rush up into Ash's face, thus hinting at a possible possession, a possible sequel, who's to say? And that's where the original Evil Dead ends. There are 2 other movies in this trilogy. However, they are very different in tone. I'm talking slapstick comedy compared to the original horror roots of the first one. Needless to say that this franchise is beloved by many a horror fan. It's absolutely iconic, and rightfully so. It's amazing. It eventually did get a remake in 2013, which was absolutely brutal and gruesome. It's dark, that one. And we also got to revisit the franchise in 2023 with Evil Dead Rise. In my opinion, there's no such thing as a bad Evil Dead movie. They're all different in tone and energy and vibe for sure, but that's why I love them so much. They're just so weird and different, and they're just such a foundational piece of horror movie culture, which is why I thought it would be the perfect start to Dead on Board. Thank you so much for watching the first episode of Dead on Board. I am beyond excited to be able to combine 2 of my great passions together, magic and horror. I have a long list of movies that I want to go through with you guys, but if there's one that you want me to cover specifically, please leave it in the comment section below.